Hello and welcome to my world. This is my story, and my name is Abiola Segun-Williams. Please subscribe, like, and comment on this story. Let us be as interactive as possible. Please engage. Yeah? Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about mothers-in-law. This is a very sore point for a lot of young ladies. I remember as a single person, I always felt that when I'm getting married, God, please let my mother-in-law like me. Let's have a good relationship, because I don't used to know how to fight. I like tense atmosphere or relationships, So this is my own story. So I used to go to a church at Ilukweju, which is still my church. At the time, I was relatively new. I was like maybe barely a few months at the time. And so we used to have regular night vigils. And my house wasn't too far. At the time, we were living at Onipan, and the church is at Ilukweju. So I could walk it sometimes, when I didn't have the money to take buses. And at that time, there was no cabin anywhere. You take bus and walk the rest of the way, So anyhow, that day I got early to church for night vigil and took my seat. And I was seated right beside an elderly woman, and she couldn't read something, and she asked me to read it for her. And then she went on to tell me, that she just broke her pair of glasses that night. But she was committed to coming for the vigil, so there was no way she was going to miss it. And I was a bespectacled person. So I just said, and I have a pair of frames that I haven't worn, and they're quite nice, that I'll bring them to church on Sunday, because this was Friday night. So she said, okay, that she would really appreciate it. So on Sunday, I bring the pair of glasses, I find her, and I give them to her. It was much later I discovered that, that that was Pastor Bim's mom. I never knew. So we formed a good relationship, and we were friends. Friendly, And every time I saw her in church, I'll go greet her, we'll talk, she was a very chatty, friendly, pleasant person, She would make friends with anybody. And then I met her husband. That night, he wasn't there, but subsequently I met him, and then we became very good friends. And then he used to call me number one. That's another story. Now, over the years, I became friends with their last child, their last born, whom I eventually got married to. And they became my in-laws. It now turned out that the first few years of marriage, we were living with them in their BQ. Before that, their son, whom I married, now asked me, that please, could we stay with them when we get married? Because they're old, and he wouldn't want to be far from them, so they're not alone. And it was acceptable to me, because I had my mom as well. I wouldn't want my mom was much younger than them at the time. So I just felt, look, I wouldn't want my mom to be alone when she's old, I would want her to have me or any of us close by. So I understood perfectly. And because I also had a good relationship with his parents, I didn't see any problems. So when we got married, we moved to the BQ and we were living there. So most of the time, by the time we got married, a few months after, I resigned from my job, right? Because immediately I got married, I got pregnant, immediately. In fact, I came back from honeymoon with the pregnancy. That's another story entirely. So after I resigned and I was pregnant and I was at home, my mother-in-law, who was living upstairs, would come downstairs and we would just talk. She would tell me different stories about her life. And she was often very rich in proverbs and Yoruba sayings. So I used to jot them down. I still have the book where I would write all those Yoruba proverbs and sayings. And I was so blessed by that relationship because she opened my eyes to a lot of things, to stories about relationships, about people. One of the stories she told me was that of a man who one day came home and suddenly said to his wife that he was leaving. He just packed out. There was no fight, nothing. He just packed out of the family home, left his children, left his wife, and went on to live with somebody else, like his secretary at work. And the woman did not understand what was happening. They sent people to him, did everything. He did not back down. In fact, he warned them never to talk to him about that woman again. That's how he closed the door against his marriage. Nobody knew why. 20 years later, he was now living with this other woman. They now had children, like 4 children, who were now grown, from teenage to 20, because 20 years had passed. So they were eating, they were having lunch, when suddenly he just came to himself and was like, where am I? What am I doing here? Looks at the wife and said, who are you? Looks at the children and said, who are you? He was like, where is his wife? And the woman went, I am your wife. He said, what am I doing here? You're not my wife. Where is my wife? Mentioned the name of the woman he was previously married to. And then his children said, where are my children? They said, oh, Dad, where are your children? What's happening? They were scared that their father was going mad. I said, no, don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't. And he just walked out to go and look for his family. When eventually he found them, because of course time had passed, they had moved away from where they were living, he had to start looking for people to retrace his steps. What happened? That woman that he had been, of course, dating had spiked his food with some jongbe, had done some things, and called him out of his marriage without him realizing. So when he left his first marriage, he was totally unaware. And years passed before that thing was undone, by which time he had had 4 children. 20 whole years had passed. One day I was having a conversation with my father-in-law at the time. He's gone to be with the Lord now. I mean, I was deeply enriched by these 2 people because I learned a lot from them. And he told me the story of a friend of his who had also experienced something similar and unfortunately had a child out of wedlock who grew up and was now a woman and was now seeking a relationship with her dad. But unfortunately, number one, the man did not accept that the child was his. And then so he was sounding me out. Now, this is now my father-in-law was now sounding me out that what do I think? Do I believe that people can be bewitched such that they won't know what they are doing? I said, yeah, sure. People can be bewitched. Then he now asked me, he said, well, if they are bewitched, does then mean that it's not their fault? So I said, no, it's their fault. He said, hey, how is it their fault? I loved, his humility, the way he used to listen to me when we shared experiences. He said, hey, how is that his fault? I said, number one, if he had not stepped out of his marriage in the first place, there wouldn't have been an opportunity for him to be bewitched by the things he ate or by association. For you to be bewitched in that manner, because what he said was the man had gone to the woman he was dating and she had given, he used to go regularly and he would eat there efo. Yoruba people will say that I want to do efo. They have mixed heavy vegetable for the person. So I said, if the man hadn't exposed himself to that relationship, he would not have been bewitched through what he ate. So he should never have stepped out. He said, that's true, Totonio. So he's not devoid of blame in that matter. I said, no, Dad, he's not. Okay, so what am I saying? When we've spent time with older people, we would learn a lot from them. We would learn a lot of life lessons that will help us in our own walk. That's one. Secondly, if we nurture and culture good relationships with our in-laws, mothers, fathers-in-law, and not see them as threats to our own marriages, they would actually enrich our lives with their own experiences, with their own stories. Before my mother-in-law passed, she was, I could say, my closest friend. We will sit for hours and gist for hours. And at the time, whenever her son arrived from work, each person would go to their rooms, and okay, today everybody would just move until the next time when we reconverged and gist again. And she will repeat the same gist over and over and over again. And I'll sit down and listen over and over again. And I remember that, my father-in-law at the time used to be, and he just walked past, wanting his wife. And here I was, monopolizing her time. But I do miss them, and I enjoyed every moment that I had with them. So what am I saying today? Enjoy your old people. Enjoy your parents-in-law. Derive pleasure from their presence, from just sitting and gisting with them. And you'll find the little girl and the little boy inside of them. One day my daughter said to me that, I actually realized one day that you're a human being. I said, before Uncle. She said, you're really a human being. I said, yes, I am. All right, it was really nice talking with you all today. Remember to always check in, subscribe, listen, and comment. Let's engage. Have a wonderful time. God bless you. See you another time.